Yes, it's a hamburger ad. It's probably no surprise that being one of the largest corporations on Earth, this certain burger joint has tried some pretty varied advertisements throughout the years, including some you can't talk about. It's a whole thing. So, our story begins in September 2023, when all the suits got together to figure out what the new thing with all the cool kids is, and the answer was anime. So next, let's pick an artist online. Nice. Now, you have an animated commercial that's netting millions of views, becoming, well, sort of the next viral thing online. And yeah, it definitely is a cute commercial. You have this gremlin, consuming, solid cholesterol. But you know all this already. If you've ever been online, chances are that you've seen these pics, and these characters, probably naked. Now, this all begs the question, if this was such a successful ad campaign, why aren't the other large corporations jumping on the anime bandwagon? And the answer is, they have, and they are. Because neither of us has anything better to do. Let's take a look at some of my handpicked commercials, where anime and products meet, to paint us these visions of hell. Okay, so this dude, Makoto Shinkai, is mostly known for producing one of the most commercially successful animated films to date. Not this one. Anyway, Shinkai became so popular that he was all but in the process of being nominated as the next new Miyazaki, despite this old fart still lurking somewhere in the background, probably complaining again about the environment, or how war is supposedly bad, or something. It was all a very strange time. But all this aside, did you also know that Shinkai really wants you to work in the coal mines? One of the things that surprised me when looking into Shinkai's personal background was that our boy has gone pretty wild with various TV commercials throughout the years, and funnily enough, they're all instantly very recognizable, as they have the trademark Shinkai art style. Here's, by the way, his IP contributing for the same burger joint. So not only does he do these same stupid burger commercials, he also wants you to work for this one construction company really bad. Honestly, I don't know anything that makes me want to go and build tunnels as much as hearing some random kid unload me his entire backstory. There's something really sad in this commercial, in the sense that it almost manages to replicate some of the same emotional beats that Shinkai uses in his full-length flicks. I mean, it does at least look aesthetically very Shinkai, right? But instead of a mildly romantic, coming-to-age story, this dude gets to work a 9 to 5. Good for him, I guess? The commercials do feature showcases of real construction projects, which admittedly is a neat angle, in this extremely touched-up reality way, but at the same time they make working for the company seem like you're building the mega structures for New Tokyo. Well, at least it's a clean commercial, and the company isn't involved in any oof. Let's watch another of his commercials, and I'm just going to let it play out, and you're going to have to guess what Shinkai is advertising here. Let's just try to guess, okay? So there's a man on a train. A girl is biking after him, screaming and crying in terror. Yeah, it's a newspaper. Didn't see that coming, right? The interesting thing for me is that, in a way, these commercials really do feel like authentic Shinkai. There's a certain emotional human spectrum condensed to these minute-and-a-half long, slightly melodramatic segments. I'll leave it up to your discernment whether you consider this all a sign of a masterful storyteller, or a sign of his drama being so formulaic that you can replicate it just by beaming lens flares directly in your face for a minute. Oh, what's that? Burgers and Shinkai aren't obscure enough for you? Okay then, let's take a look at whatever the f this is, and enter the 360p world. Here's a couple of advertisements I curated for you, mostly because you can find them with subtitles, which means that some nerd somewhere was invested enough in this to translate these works. So thank you, but why? And if our first ad looks like it was made by a serial killer, then, I suppose that's a real possibility. The first set of commercials introduces us to this girl, who's suffering from a nasty breakup, and in an attempt to cheer her up, this alien dude uses her as a punching bag and then takes her in a time machine to the future. And then the clip ends. Now, what is this short advertising? Things become much more clear in the second commercial, where our girl Ai, again, laments her boyfriend, and performs a musical number with, the Chicken Man. This mystery character then removes his mask, and it turns out, he's the mayor of Kobe City. That's right, this all has been just a travel advertisement. As a side note, the person who wrote Ai's profile for Anime List also struggles really hard to establish some canon timeline to how the time travel played into our events. I just find this dedication really funny. Another anime following this pattern of obscure products is this heartwarming 3-episode fantasy love story, Sugio. In the anime, our main character, Sugio named Tree, is being somewhat existential about his purpose in life.
なんだかよくわからなくなっちゃったんだ。将来杉としてどう生きるべきかが、このままなんとなく年輪を重ねて老いて枯れていくのかな。
Until he falls in love with a human woman.
杉が人間に恋をした。
This forbidden romance doesn't of course come without issues, and Sugio has to, for example, go through an intense training arc. So I'm just going to skip to the end here and reveal the twist. After 3 episodes of Sugio's backstory, we find out that his love is already married.
なんとひとみさん結婚してた
And that this all has been just a house commercial. Which means that Sugio gets then violently murdered with a chainsaw, while we get to witness him screaming in pain.
富山の杉材は適切に伐採されることで次の世代へ命をつなぎます。木を育てる林業のプロによる徹底した森林管理によって森のライフサイクルは守られているのです。
The commercial then segues into a live-action segment that tries to get you to buy the very same house our main character was killed to build. I have to say, it's all a hell of a choice for a marketing strategy. But maybe not as bold choice as the... That's right, this has all been a stealth excuse to talk about Gundam advertisements. The common through line in some of these commercials is that they feature Gundam's most popular character, Quattro, Bazinga, who really wants you to buy a car. Nothing like pretending a Toyota is a high-end mobile suit.
Zeonic Toyota.
By the people who brought you such classics like the Colony Drop. But let's be real here, do you really trust this guy's recommendation? A guy who, spoilers, is known for backstabbing most of his allies. And a guy who at one point thought we need to drop a giant rock on Earth to kill millions, because the gravity?
これでこそ私のマックだ。
And because the one meme everyone knows about Char is that he colors all his things red, these commercials also must advertise predominantly red objects, which is funny as shit. Here they try to trick you that the hamburger is red by having this background, and what I figure is very orange-tinted cheese. Look, there's a lot of stuff here. Even without going into the toy or these Western commercials.
Level 5 Gundam, 17 hours.
Level 4, 3 days.
I said this was a Gundam slot, but I lied, because we're also going to briefly look at this another mech anime, which is also known for insane advertising. What does this even mean? And in case you ever wanted to buy a razor from another morally questionable old guy, who's mostly known for being an extremely good father figure. I don't understand anything anymore. So okay, I don't really know what kind of a conclusion I can draw from an anime segment like Sugio, because, well, it is what it is, but at the end of the day, there's a couple of things I really wanted to leave here as conclusions. First takeaway for me personally was that, after viewing all this, it's very interesting to peep into this sort of a liminal space between artistic merit and corporate agenda, especially because there isn't a lot of discussion about this in the West. The second takeaway though would be that there's definitely something more sinister lurking here under the surface. So circling back to our first point, our main man Shinkai really embodies this liminal space I referred to. Because no matter how I feel about his works personally, he unarguably is a famous artist, and back in the day, some of his works were produced on a skeleton crew, as passion projects, and he certainly deserves mention for that alone. Even in these construction commercials, it is an interesting artistic venture to try to represent real-world construction sites in an anime format, trying to nail the balance between realism and fantasy. But at the end of the day, I can't really say how I feel about this all as a work of art, when the agenda is so obvious. Aside Shinkai, there's a lot of commercials that I didn't cover here at all because I frankly didn't find them interesting enough. But as a passing note, here's for example an anime commercial by Nestle. That looks visually really good by the way, right? And is very transparent on how much work the artists really put into this short behind the scenes. A short, mind you, that at the end of the day advertises just cheap coffee that's being produced with less than adult labor. And it doesn't end there. And just to hammer the point in, another ad that I didn't previously get into is this animated Lipton commercial. And of course, these very familiar looking emotional beats have nothing to do with this canister of tea the company is selling. So this all ends up just being a signal that Lipton, as a corporation, has already mastered this visual language that anime as a medium has, and they are willing to imitate it in an extremely cynical fashion, just to sell whatever their product of the day is. Another thing you tend to notice when consuming a lot of these commercials is that the marketing strategies roughly land between very glitter-oriented and between so stupid that the advertisers can be slightly smug and ironic about the whole thing. And personally, I find this latter strategy more worrisome, as somehow, it doesn't take a lot to notice that, for example, the colorful Lipton commercial seems very insincere in context. But on the other hand, this sort of funny marketing really gets people. There are, for example, reviews written about this razor commercial, where the people try really hard to be in on the joke, which is probably the exact reception the advertisers wanted. That's to say, there already is a strategy to commercialize anime that obviously works. And yeah, considering these types of campaigns seem very successful now, with their immense popularity online, it just means that this all will keep happening in the future. Here's your granny elf Frieren trying to get you to buy a certain sauce brand. And this commercial was mixed in with the rest of the shorts, so if you want to watch all the specials, you really have no say in being subjected to whatever this is. And on the other hand, here's the titular Dr. Stone enjoying a chocolate bar. And you can play these things as jokes, as I did, because this does look very dumb, right? But at the same time, I think it's worth noting that these, almost self-aware commercials, do still feature something more sinister trying to infiltrate an artistic field that we both enjoy. Even if they try their best to be somewhat ironic about it. I honestly don't know what to make out of all this, because the hope of media being free from commercial influences is, no way around it, a bit naive. But something about this all just feels very dishonest. And it's not just the fact that this doctor is trying to convince me that these chocolate bars are actually really healthy because they feature nuts.